Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the show. I'm not really exactly sure how to start a video like this, but I just really wanted to talk about this comic book a little bit, and I figured a top-down view would be the best way to do this, kind of cartoonist kayfabe style. But you know how those guys were like experts at comic books and kind of like industry professionals or whatever? This video series that I'm planning on doing over here is the complete opposite. I've only been reading comic books for 1.5 years, okay? And I started reading them at the tender age of 39 years old. And this book over here, The Dark Knight Returns, came out 1 year after I was born. So I lived my entire life parallel to comic books without ever reading them up until last year. Well, I guess the end of 2024 is when I started actually paying attention to comic books. And it was two things that got me into comic books that made me interested in pursuing it as a hobby. The first thing was Marvel Rivals, the video game, which I am no longer playing and no longer interested in whatsoever. And the second thing was Absolute Batman. And I was just lucky enough to be there for issue number 1. But this over here is the annual with a story by my favorite writer-artist, Daniel Warren Johnson. And I've been a Batman fan going back a little bit, you know? I watched some of the movies and some of the animated shows, but I was never really an aficionado, you know? I couldn't really tell you all the things about it. And I figured I needed to go back and read this book. And to be honest, my first read-through of this thing, I did not enjoy it. There were many things that I loved about it, but basically as a new comic book reader, I found this thing very hard to follow. So I've reread it a couple times while also reading other things, some historical comics, recent comics, modern comics, all that sort of stuff. And then today, I reread the first chapter and it all clicked for me. I went from not understanding it to not liking it to absolutely loving it, all within 3 reads, but it took me 3 reads to get there. Maybe I just wasn't really so familiar with the language that this whole book was trying to present. So today, I kind of just want to go through it and see what I thought when I first read the book compared to what I'm feeling now. The confusion, frustration, and anger that I felt during my first couple read-throughs have now been all washed away with clarity, understanding, and a deep appreciation for the way that this story is being told. So this that I got in front of me here is a 2016 reprint of it, the 30-year anniversary, and it's been 10 years since that. So this thing has been out 40 years, just as long as I have. And we're not really going to go into the whole interview that opens this book up. What I want to open it with is how the book always opens, and I always loved this piece. Even from when I first tried to read this chapter digitally, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months ago, I loved these 2 pages. These 2 pages here set up the entire theme of the book. And these 2 pages tell you what the writer, Frank Miller, is trying to accomplish in this entire book. He wants to dissect superheroes, he wants to build them back up again, but he also wants to comment on it in a very satirical sort of way. And I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but this book, if you don't know, was written and drawn by the same guy, Frank Miller, who's just like an absolute legend in the industry, and so many people consider this book here the best comic book ever written. It's really held in conversation with The Watchmen. The Watchmen is the best graphic novel ever made. It's the only thing that's transcended from comic books to actual literature, but there are so many arguments for this book that I'm not experienced or smart enough to make right yet. Like I said, I've only been reading comic books about 1.5 years so far, but that is just the sort of reputation that this book has. And in these 2 pages here is essentially a newspaper article written by Jimmy Olsen from the Daily Planet, you know, from the Superman universe. So that's telling you right away that everything here is already connected. No, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it is absolutely brilliant. The way that Jimmy Olsen calls out the golden age, the way that Frank Miller is calling out the golden age of comic books in this book, brilliant. He's telling us we're going to break down the superhero and we're going to build him back up again in kind of a realistic sort of way. And that is what this article tells me. And then we turn the page over here and we got these 2 cool art pieces. One of them obviously is the cover of the book. And then you get this kind of black and white Batman and Robin over top of Batman with the slingshot and the hair going crazy. I kind of think it looks pretty sick. You got a little bit of this foreshortening over here with the finger, the heavy blacks, only a little bit of the white peeking out just to give you the idea of the figure there. Frank Miller was really on something back then. That's a good piece of art. But then, as a new comic book reader, when I first saw these 2 pages, oh my God, I felt so challenged. Okay, you're like, oh my God, this is daunting. What do we got over here? Is this a 14 panel grid? Now, I'm reading comic books normally, right? And I'm used to the 9 panel grid. I'm used to the 6 panel grid. I'm used to splash pages. Right away, I'm forced to cramp my eyeballs at the top of this page. And I'm having a hard time reading the letters. I'm having a hard time seeing what's going on in here. And there are 14 of these images that my brain had to process. And at first, during my first read through, I found this so hard to read. Because basically here you just see a mustache and some stuff framing it. It's hard to see what the stuff framing it is. Then you pull back a little bit and it looks like a guy in a helmet with a hand above him. Still don't know what's going on. But then you see all this fiery stuff happening and it's clearly all happening to a guy named Bruce. So you're thinking, oh, this is Bruce Wayne in some sort of contraption all on fire. But then it's clear that he's racing and his car crashes and then he makes it out alive. And the narrative device that Frank Miller is choosing to tell this story, at first I found very, very alarming and confusing, and that's these series of television screens, right? This is supposed to be a news show happening that is telling you what's going on in this world. And at first, it's very confusing, because it's like, who's watching the TV in universe? Is this a TV that the Joker is watching? Is this a TV that the Batman is watching? Is this a TV that me, the viewer, the reader, is watching? I'm very confused by this as a narrative function. But the more you just pay attention to what they're saying in these panels and what they're laying out as it pertains to the entire universe, I think is very cool. Because it's through this we learn that there have been a series of killings by this gang called the Mutants. I don't know if that's shade thrown at Marvel or whatever, but the Mutants are out there in Gotham killing everybody. We also learned that Batman's been gone for 10 years or whatever, and that Jim Gordon is about to retire and he wants to tie this whole thing into a bow before it's all said and done. You're like, okay, I get that. But during my first read through of this page, I didn't know who was talking. I didn't know who was talking to whom. I didn't know who these TVs were intended to be seen by. But it really is just, this is the news broadcast going out over Gotham, and they give you little pieces of information and not in a linear way. And it's not spoon-fed to you the way that most comic books are, you know? So you actually really have to be paying attention to what's going on here. And on one hand, you can be like, oh, that's not really good readability. You know, you want to be able to just flow through a page. But from a narrative function, this thing is very dense. And yeah, it's a little bit challenging. It took me a long time to kind of understand how to read it. But this morning during my read through, after I already knew kind of what was going on here, it was all able to really lock in. Like, oh, I see the kind of story that's going on here. And another problem that I had with the TV screens at first was they weren't very dynamic. It was all so static. You know, I felt like if these are news reporters, bring me into the environment, bring me into the studio, show me some different angles, maybe from like behind the cameraman, maybe at the control board, high shot, low shot, give me some perspective grids or something, you know? That was my initial feeling. But upon further reflection, I really like it to be static. It really helps the reader focus on the narrative function that's going on here. And if they're going to be giving you all this information so dense, if there are all those dynamic shots, it might become overwhelming because I already was overwhelmed. And it's just a series of static panels. So after thinking about it, I'm like, oh, maybe you want to keep the camera where it's at. But yeah, we learned that this is years after Batman is done Batmaning and he has retired. He just walks the streets as an old man, still haunted, still brooding, still clearly holding a place in his heart for being the Batman. And he even gets confronted by a bunch of mutants over here where he's like, oh man, I really should be the Batman. You turn the page over here and you see that the mutants scared the living crap out of Bruce Wayne and he's down there on his knees. And this is no place for a guy like Bruce Wayne, a guy like the Batman. And this absolutely stunning helicopter shot over here of Gotham City, where we're learning about this heat wave that's also going on during all these murders that these mutants are pulling off. Then we go to Arkham Asylum. They walk past the Joker over here. It's 601. The only reason you could tell it's the Joker is because this little bit of green hair over here. I think that's pretty sick. That's some good storytelling. And again, we got another 16 panel grid over here that just is a lot for somebody that's new to comic books. And you need to know Batman in order to read this. Like, you need to know what Arkham is. You need to know who these bad guys are. You need to know their history. You need to know where Batman was before all this, which was just like Family Time Batman. You need to know all that in order to see how this book is subverting every little bit of it, making it darker, making it twisted. So right away we're learning, oh, we're gonna get some Joker, but there's gonna be a Two-Face reveal. Harvey Dent and Joker are gonna be two of the main bad guys from Batman's Rogues Gallery in this book. And we learn that they're both off the street, obviously, they're in Arkham, and Harvey Dent has been in here for 12 years under rehabilitation. They remove these bandages, and apparently, he's beautiful, and he's crying. Then the news tells you the lore of Harvey Dent, and again, when I turned the page, even when I read this again a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, rather, at this point, you turn the page here, and this is so daunting. All of these TV screens all at once, and then you need to squeeze your eyeballs up to the very top over here. But once you get used to that flow, once you get used to how this is telling the story, once you're just locked into a good flow state of your own while reading it, it all needs to be there in order for it to click. It clicks. It's definitely using a lot of language from filmmaking and from comic books, mashing them together in a way that it's just forcing you to try to understand it. And just the clever ways that it's doing it. Right here you see a shot of the moon, and then a silhouette of a bat-like figure going through it, and then passing it. It's like, oh my God, what's happening here? And then we cut to Bruce Wayne sleeping, and then to young Bruce Wayne. And there's nothing here to tell you what time period any of these are in. Is it a dream? Is he back now? But once you're reading it all, and once you're flowing with it, you realize that this is a flashback to Bruce discovering the Batcave for the first time by accident, and then going down there again as an adult and having everything tarped off. So his initial first time there and all the fear that went into it, combined now with the longing for being Batman. The Batcave has served its full purpose. This is the Batcave's entire life cycle just on these 2 pages. From a literal Batcave to the retired Batcave. And in the dialogue over here, Bruce Wayne is contemplating to himself, man, I really want to be Batman again, but I promised for Jason, never again. I'll never be Batman. So he's wrestling with it. He knows that the streets of Gotham are fucked, man. He faced the streets of Gotham himself. The mutants are out there doing all sorts of stuff. So even though the bad guys were behind bars and Harvey Dent is now being released, but everybody believes him to be completely rehabilitated, Bruce Wayne is down here being like, man, the world needs Batman right now. Sure wish I could be Batman. And after more contemplation, Batman is over there longing at the Robin suit. For Jason, I can't do this. Alfred's like, you got to stop gawking over the antiques. Go to bed. But Bruce, what happened to your mustache? Oh, he's really contemplating it. So using that shaving of the mustache to tell the audience that old Bruce Wayne is thinking about putting on the cape and cowl again, that is awesome. And he puts his hands up. Oh my God, he's kind of shocked. Oh dear God, what could have happened to my mustache? Then we get to this series of panels that at first I was frustrated, and it proves my point that you kind of need to understand how to read comics, and you really need to be paying attention to what's going on here. You need to know where these word balloons are going, who's saying what, and at first I found it to be so claustrophobic because all this dialogue is happening with characters off screen. And that was my first kind of huge critique about it. It's like, show me the characters that are talking. I don't know who's talking. But once you're able to pick up on the context clues, you're in this dingy apartment type place with this TV on, which is a narrative function that we've already established, is everything happens through a TV here. And the people in this room are gambling, and they're talking about being bad guys, essentially. So it's obvious who they are. They're Two-Face's former henchmen. Then Two-Face comes into the room, turns off the TV, flips the coin, and bing, bang, boom, we know that Two-Face is not rehabilitated. We know that Two-Face is going back to his goons and back to his old ways. Love it. Great. And you didn't need to get clever with the panels. And once you're used to this 16-panel grid and cramping your eyes up into little parts of the corner, then you can really get into a flow state with this thing. Then you can really start to read it. But my first time through, every page turn took me out of it. Every page turn was like, oh my God, 16 more panels times 2, 32 more panels per page turn. Boom! And there we go. 32 more panels per page turn, every single panel, uniform. But this is when this style of paneling really, really shines. Because this is Bruce Wayne over there telling Alfred, go to bed, all right? And then as Bruce Wayne is sitting there brooding, as he always does, he turns on the TV and Zorro is playing. The movie that was playing during that time that his parents got killed after they were at the theater or whatever. And then Bruce Wayne is like, oh man, I really should have looked at the listings. I didn't want to be triggered right now. I've already been down to the Batcave. I've already shaved up my mustache. I don't want to be Batman, and now I'm getting triggered again by this Zorro movie. So now it goes through his flashback of Bruce as a kid and all the fear that's in his eyes when he's going through this flashback. And as a Batman fan, you know what happened that night after seeing Zorro that night at the theater. And then this is Bruce Wayne reliving it during all these moments of contemplation about wanting to be Batman again, but wrestling with the fact that he's old. Wrestling with the fact that he promised Jason, a former Robin, that he wouldn't do it. But now Zorro's playing and he doesn't have a mustache. And all these wounds are fresh. He's like, oh dude, my city needs Batman. It's so hot out there. Let me go save them. And then 16 more panels times 2. And even those panels are broken up into even more panels over here. You gotta love it. But it's going through the whole moment of the pearl necklace being ripped, going back and forth with how it's making Bruce Wayne feel all these years later, even after being Batman, after retiring from Batman, and realizing that there hasn't been any closure yet. So he just gets in there, he's ripping a shower real quick, while still wrestling with the thoughts of all that, just in the shower, brooding as fuck, Bruce Wayne, old as hell, being like, you know what, it might be time. But he's still not really convinced. He goes to his study or whatever it is. He's listening to, I don't know, voicemails or whatever. He's listening to one from Selina when a bat comes crashing through the window. And just these shots close up of Bruce Wayne's face with the reflection of the window, kind of foreshadowing that something is going to happen involving the window. We're outside the window here. We're inside looking out and we see a bat. We're close up to Bruce Wayne. The bat's getting closer, and then the bat just breaks through. You got more mutants doing crimes. And then here's another series of those panels that were really confusing at first, and you need to know context clues in order to get them. All this dialogue is happening with characters that you can't see, but it's very clear what kind of characters these are when you're reading it. Absolutely, 100%. They're bad people doing bad things. And then we're starting to get clues that Batman is back. He's like, oh, did you hear that? There's something on the roof. Then you see this blue foot. And then you see this blue hand handing the cab driver money for all the grief that he just went through. Then we cut to who would become Robin in this book, but we don't really know that yet. And they face some mutants of their own. But they're saved by something. Somebody saved them. And the kids were found safe and the bad guys were found hurt. What could be happening? What's this silhouette? Is Batman back? So we're being very, very mysterious with Batman being back. And he's back for like 4 pages before we even see him. And we still haven't even seen him yet. Just evidence of Batman being back. 2 cops being like, oh man, you should have been there when Batman was around. And then the news reporters are saying, oh, some bad guys are being found all beaten up, dude. Just the way the Batman used to do it. Is Batman back? Is Two-Face back? Is Two-Face good? What's going on? And then boom. The splash page of Batman actually returning. Very sick. And in this panel over here, Batman is like, I'm better than I was when I was 30. I'm better than I was when I was 20. And that is important to remember because it's character development, which is something that you don't always get in superhero books. And it's gonna matter even later on in this chapter, how he feels. He feels new. He feels young. He feels ready for the night. He feels born again, and the rain on his chest is the holy water baptizing him. Very poetic. And then more television screens over here, interviewing the survivors of those recent mutant encounters over here, being like, yeah, Batman rules. Batman saved us. Batman's back and he's awesome. Now it's totally official. Everything's happening. The bad guys are totally screwed, bro. And honestly, during my first read through, this read like comic books. I understood this. But these pages over here, man, and especially with the way that they were colored, was very confusing to me. But the use of yellow is so clear when it's juxtaposed with the fact that Batman is back and Batman is hurting bad guys right now. And then you turn the page and it's official. Not only is it a blue hand or a blue foot or a silhouette somewhere, Batman is actually back. he shaved his mustache, and he's ready for the night. And I love these kind of panels where it's just the word, the sound effect as the panel, and the thing that's making that sound effect is happening inside. I don't know if that was a thing going on in a lot of comic books before that, but it looks sick here for sure. Now, I don't want to get fully into the story or everything like that, but Batman is now hunting down the bad guys, hunting down the mutants, while the mutants are like, oh, is he back? Oh, we're so scared. And yeah, he's back. He's going to be beating up the bad guys. And as he's going through the bad guy's vest, the cops come in. The young guy's like, I gotta arrest you. Then the old guy's like, no, that's Batman. We like Batman. And as Batman is going through the pockets of the guy that he just beat up, he found that dollar coin that has been defaced. A trademark, a calling card of none other than Two-Face. So it's official. Batman is back. The news reports are reporting that Batman is back, and the Joker is elated. Bat. Just this close-up of Joker's face as he's learning that Batman is back is glorious. And then more 32 panels. There's a debate. Batman is bad. Batman is good. Batman is bad. Batman is good. The debate is over. Let's release a henchman back out into the wild. Batman chases the henchman. Batman does Batman things. The bat signal is reinstalled. Now you need to know what the bat signal is, the whole history of the bat signal, for you to understand these panels. Because it is just a silhouette. You don't really see what's going on there, but there have been mentions like, are there ways to contact Batman? How are we going to do it? So you know, if you know Batman, you're thinking, obviously, the bat signal, right? So that's why you can't start with this book if you're reading Batman for the first time. But luckily, Batman's been around long enough that most people know what the bat signal is. And one cop is telling Jim Gordon, hey man, you said you weren't gonna reinstall this thing. Don't tell the new commissioner or whatever. Can't believe you had it put back, Commissioner. If Gallagher knew, ... Gallagher doesn't run this department yet. So I guess Gallagher is gonna be the next commissioner after Commissioner Gordon goes out. And then you see that person that I told you was gonna be Robin, this child looking out the window. And obviously it's dark here, right? And then it gets progressively lighter and lighter and lighter as you go through the panels, signifying that the bat signal has been turned on. I think that is just a great way to show it. That's brilliant. That isn't just showing you the signal right away. That's leading up to it. And it peppers it all the way back, all to this one moment, and then the reveal on a page turn that shows you the bat signal being put up. God damn, it's brilliant. And then one of Joker's henchmen over here, talking to the Joker who's all caged up, being like, oh, the guy told me to make some bombs for him. That Two-Face guy. Is it okay if I make them? And none of that is answered. Joker doesn't say yes or no. He just asks what kinds of bombs. And you're like, oh, what's happening there? You turn and, oh, Batman is just trying to infiltrate more things. Attacks are happening all over the place. Batman needs to be on the job now. Things are starting to get crazy. Batman's Batmaning. He's shooting tightropes. He's walking on tightropes. Meanwhile, Two-Face is taking control of the news. And he's like, I got 2 bombs. So it's answered here that apparently this fat dude over here made the bombs, and Two-Face is basically holding the entire place ransom in order to do it. Now we're going back and forth from Batman panels to news panels, but Batman is not watching the news, so he doesn't actually know that it's Two-Face. But everybody else in the universe does, reader included. Beautiful, dramatic irony. Then Batman gets shot here in the chest, but it's made clear that it's an armored chest plate or whatever. And then another beautiful splash page. This figure work is insane. This pose, this camera angle, very dynamic, super dramatic as well. And the composition of Batman in the top like this with his feet pointing towards the corner of the page like that, very stunning. The negative space all right here. The chopper in silhouette behind it, and how the chopper's propellers are being signified over here by these squiggles. Dude, this looks awesome. Frank Miller was really on one over here. But it's here where Batman's like, oh, I'm starting to feel old. Now I'm moving a little bit less good. I'm going to need some massage work. And then through all this action, it is revealed that Batman finds Two-Face and that they learn that, yeah, it is Two-Face that's doing all this stuff. End of chapter. Hell yeah, dude. Now, my first time through this, bros, I had such a hard time with it. Every page turn where I saw all these panels, like, oh my God, what's going on? My brain was doing that rather than being able to pay attention to what these panels were trying to tell me. And then today, as I reread it before making this video, which I'm glad I did, this video would have had a completely different tone had I not. But now I'm hooked. Now I want to read the rest of it. Because I got halfway through the next chapter and kind of gave up on it. But now that I'm like familiar with the language that this novel is trying to present me with, I'm hooked, dude. I think that it's awesome. And I want to know what actually happens throughout the rest of this thing. When and where and how does Robin link into this whole thing? What's going to happen? I want to know. Now I'm actually into the narrative and I'm not frustrated by these 16 panel grids. Now, the more that I actually look at these 16 panel grids, the more I'm starting to appreciate them as full compositions on their own. Like, they look awesome. But I was way too frustrated at first. Way too frustrated at first and confused and didn't know who was talking and was angry at these non-dynamic news shots or whatever. But I've come around completely. And if you want to read another book that does the same sort of thing, obviously The Watchmen is out there. But there's another book by Rick Veitch that kind of uses this newsman narrative structure, but instead of it being on TV, it's a radio feed that's going throughout the whole book. Brat Pack is the name of that thing. So read Brat Pack if you want. If I can get a hold of a physical copy of Brat Pack, maybe I'll do another one of these kinds of videos. But essentially, I just want to catalog my entire comic book journey over here, because not only am I new to reading comics, I've been drawing my whole life, but for some reason, I never made comics. I was never interested in reading comics, making comics. I even went to animation school, and earlier on this year, I did my own comic over here, which you can now read for free at Dan Frampton, all one word, the O's a zero, .wordpress.com. It's The Scrupulous Moshman, issue 1, and issue 2 is coming out next Wednesday. So hook yourself up with that link, Dan Frampton, all one word, the O's a zero, .wordpress.com, and get ready for some Moshman action. Get caught up. Now, it definitely looks like Baby's first comic book, absolutely 100%, because it is Baby's first comic book. There are a lot of things that you could pick apart over here, but I'm still extremely proud of it that I was able to figure out this entire process and put a comic book together. And now I have 5 issues planned to tell this entire story. And I'm going to give it all away for free over there on my blog. And then once the entire arc is done, I'm going to maybe, hopefully, try to figure out a way to get it bound as a graphic novel. I might have to crowdfund it, we'll see. But if I can get a trade paperback once it's all done, hell yeah, dude, that's what I'm into. But I'm just happy to report that I am no longer a Dark Knight Returns hater. I actually love what Frank Miller was able to accomplish here. And I'm excited to read the rest of it. And maybe once I do read the rest of it, I'll make another one of these videos to be like, hey, you know what? I like this story a whole lot. I like the art. I like what they're doing narratively. And with all that said, that's going to be the end of the very first video of this kind. I don't know what I'm going to be calling it yet, or if I'm even going to do any more of them. But it's a whole lot of fun, that's for sure. I do have other videos on this channel. They're not like this one. They're just like character design breakdowns or whatever. So go back and watch one of those. Go to my main channel, Dan Frampton, all one word, the O's a zero, for content about music. And until my next upload, watch another upload.